Welcome to the Pre-Calculus Notes for Chapter 2.5 Part B, titled The Fundamental Theorem of Algebra, and also titled Solving Quadratics with Imaginary Solutions. So go ahead and put your first and last name and what period you're in. All right, so we're going to talk about finding all the zeros of the equations. And so the first one on the left here, we have x squared times x squared plus 50. If we set that equal to 0. We're also going to see that if we multiply x squared times x squared, you get x to the fourth. That means there should be 4 solutions. Okay? First, let's take the x squared. So if we take the square root of x squared and 0, we get 0, and it's a double root. So that's 2 of our answers. If you want to list it twice, you can, so that you, at the end, you don't go, where is it? Okay. And then we're going to take the x squared plus 50, set it equal to 0. And then subtract the 50. That negative is going to get you the I in there. And then simplify or factor the 50 to 25 and 2. So the square root of 25 is 5, and 2 does not have a partner, so it stays inside the radical. And that's a plus minus. So this is 2 answers right here, 2 zeros right here, total of 4. The problem on the right is x minus 4. That part's easy. Set it equal to 0, add 4. That's your first answer. And then we have 5x squared plus 7. Set that equal to 0. Subtract the 7. Divide by 5. And then take the square root. So let's see. That you can't simplify that anymore. But when you take the square root of the negative, you get the I. And then you can't leave the radical in the denominator. So you have to multiply by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5, which is the square root of 35 over 5. And then the plus minus makes it your 2 answers here, your 1 answer here. If you add the exponent 1 and the exponent 2, you get 3. So there's your 3 solutions. All right, let me see if I can move this over. All right, so now we're going to take our 3x to the 4th power minus 7x squared minus 20 and set it equal to 0. Largest exponent is 4. That means we need 4 answers. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the 3x to the 4th times negative 20, which gets me negative 60x to the 4th. And then the middle term is our negative 7x squared. So we want to see what multiplies to get this and adds to get that. So it might take a few minutes to figure out those factors. You'll get it. So you're going to have negative 12x squared and 5x squared. So I'm going to rewrite this trinomial as a 4-term polynomial so that I can factor by grouping. So I'm going to group these 2 together, pull out their GCF of 3x squared, group these 2 together, pull out their GCF, which is 5. Okay? Then notice your x squared minus 4 and your x squared minus 4 are the same, so that becomes one of your binomials. And then whatever's left over, so the 3x squared plus the 5 is your other binomial. If you set the x squared minus 4 equal to 0, add 4, take the square root, you get plus or minus 2. That's 2 of your answers. Then take the 3x squared plus 5, set it equal to 0. Subtract the 5, divide by 3, take the square root. Square root of negative 1 is where your I comes from. And then you have to rationalize that denominator. So if you want to multiply by square root of 3 over square root of 3 here, that's going to get you the square root of 15. And then the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which is 3. This answer is plus minus, so that gets you your other 2 answers. All right. Problem on the right, same thing. 8x to the 4th minus 10x squared minus 63. So we want to split it into 4 terms in order to factor by grouping. So we're going to multiply 8x to the 4th. Well, this 8x to the 4th minus 63, which is a really large number. It's 504x to the 4th and negative 10x squared. So this one's a little harder to find, but you can do it. You've got a calculator. It's going to be negative 28x squared and 18x squared. So we're going to expand that middle term to these 2 middle terms, so we can group these 2 together and these 2 together. The greatest common factor of these 2 is 4x squared, and the greatest common factor of these 2 is 9. So we pulled out a 2x squared minus 7 here and a 2x squared minus 7 here. So that becomes our first binomial. And then the 4x squared plus 9 becomes our other binomial. We set each of those equal to 0 and then simplify. So for this one, we add 7, divide by 2, take the square root. And then can't reduce it, but we can get rid of that square root in the denominator. So we multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, which gets us 2 in the denominator and square root of 14 in the numerator. That one's plus minus. No I that time. Then you take the 4x squared plus 9 set equal to 0, subtract the 9 from both sides, divide both sides by 4, take the square root. The negative 1 under there gives you the I, and then square root of 9 is 3, square root of 4 is 2, and then the plus minus gives you 2 answers there, 2 answers here, so a total of 4, which is the largest exponent. All right, last slide. Okay, so this one we're gonna factor by grouping as well. This one's already 4 terms, so we're just gonna find the GCF of the 3x cubed plus x squared, which is x squared. Find the GCF of these two, which is 4. The 3x plus 1 and the 3x plus 1 are the same, so they become the first binomial. And then the x squared plus 4 is the other binomial. So I'm going to take the 3x plus 1, subtract 1 from both sides, divide both sides by 3. And we get x is negative 1/3. That's one answer. And then over here we subtract 4 from both sides. And then take the square root. The negative 1 under there gives you the I, and the square root of 4 is 2. And because it's the square root, you have plus minus, so that's your other 2 answers. All right, last one. So we're going to group the first 2 terms together and the second 2 terms together. Find the GCF, find the GCF. X plus 3 and x plus 3 are the same, so they become the first binomial, and the 5x squared minus 4 becomes the second binomial. Take the x plus 3, set it equal to 0, and subtract 3. And your first answer is x equals negative 3. Then you're going to take the 5x squared minus 4, set it equal to 0. Add 4 to both sides, divide both sides by 5. This one you're going to have to get the radical out of the denominator by multiplying by rad 5 over rad 5. This gives you 5 in the denominator and 2 rad 5 in the numerator, and then plus minus. So that's 2 answers here, 1 answer here. The largest exponent was 3 or cubed. All right, thank you.